At least be an individually liberated African who is not scared of colonizers, who is not scared of white people, who doesn't worship the establishment.
Should African nations stop relying on Western nations? But will they even be able to run its economy? Nations like Niger have taken the initiative, growing independent from the Western currency like CFA Franc. But where will this decision take Niger? Is it a road full of risks without any benefits? Let's find out. Africa is on the road to independence and making its own changes. And now Niger is taking some serious actions, one of them being leaving the CFA Franc currency. Why does Niger want to leave the CFA Franc? A pursuit of economic independence and autonomy drives Niger's contemplation of leaving the CFA Franc. The historical association of the CFA Franc with the colonial past has prompted Niger to reevaluate its currency arrangement and seek greater control over its monetary policies. The CFA Franc, having its value pegged to the euro, has faced criticism for impinging on the monetary policy autonomy of its member countries. In the case of Niger, as with other nations using the franc, the desire for more flexibility in economic decision-making has become a compelling factor in exploring alternatives. How does the tie to the euro limit Niger's monetary policy independence? The CFA Franc pegged to the euro has been a contentious issue, particularly in restricting the monetary policy independence of member countries like Niger. The fixed exchange rate with the euro means that the euro's fluctuations directly influence the value of the CFA franc. While this arrangement provides stability, it constrains countries from independently adjusting their monetary policies to address specific economic challenges. Niger's concern lies in the limited ability it has to implement policies tailored to its unique economic circumstances, as the tie to the euro tends to prioritize the interests of the eurozone over the African nations using the CFA franc. Niger, like other CFA franc-using nations, has encountered challenges in making independent economic decisions due to the constraints imposed by the currency arrangement. The fixed exchange rate and limited control over monetary policies have made it difficult for Niger to respond dynamically to economic challenges such as inflation, trade imbalances, and fiscal issues. The inability to tailor monetary policies to specific national needs has been a source of frustration for Niger, leading to a growing consensus within the country that a departure from the CFA franc is necessary to address its economic concerns effectively. The desire for greater control over monetary policies and exchange rates stems from Niger's aspiration for economic self-determination. The current arrangement with the CFA franc has been a glimmer of colonialism, wherein decisions related to currency and economic policies are influenced externally. Niger seeks the ability to shape its economic destiny by having the flexibility to implement policies that align with its unique circumstances and development goals. The call for greater control over exchange rates is driven by the understanding that a more adaptable currency system could better serve Niger's economic interests and foster sustainable growth. Niger's decision to leave the CFA franc is not merely a symbolic gesture, but a strategic move aimed at redefining its economic position. By breaking away from the CFA franc, Niger intends to assert its independence and autonomy on the economic stage. This strategic effort involves adopting a currency arrangement that provides more flexibility and control, allowing Niger to tailor its economic policies to address specific challenges and opportunities. The move is also a response to the evolving global economic landscape. African nations increasingly seek avenues to strengthen their economic standing and reduce dependence on historical ties that may impede progress. How does leaving the CFA franc contribute to breaking free from neo-colonial ties? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video, and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The decision to leave the CFA franc is a significant step for Niger in breaking free from neo-colonial ties. The historical association of the CFA franc with the colonial past has created a narrative of economic dependence and external influence. By adopting a new currency system, Niger aims to distance itself from this narrative, signaling a break from the remnants of colonial-era economic structures. This move is part of a broader trend across African nations, seeking to redefine their economic relationships and assert their sovereignty in the face of historical legacies that have shaped their economic policies for decades. Navigating the transition to a new currency system is a complex task that requires careful planning and implementation. Niger is likely to explore various options, including adopting a national currency or joining a regional currency union with more aligned economic interests. The transition will involve addressing logistical challenges, such as printing new currency, updating financial systems, and establishing regulatory frameworks. Additionally, diplomatic and economic negotiations may be necessary to ensure a smooth transition without causing disruptions to trade and financial stability. Niger's ability to successfully navigate this transition will be crucial in determining the effectiveness of its strategic move away from the CFA franc. But what are the potential benefits and risks associated with Niger's decision to leave the CFA franc? Niger's decision to leave the CFA franc comes with potential benefits and risks. On the positive side, gaining greater control over monetary policies and exchange rates can enhance Niger's ability to respond to economic challenges and foster sustainable development. The move can also contribute to a sense of economic sovereignty and autonomy, reshaping the narrative of external influence. However, risks are involved, including potential short-term economic disruptions during the transition period and uncertainties about the stability of a new currency. The success of Niger's decision will depend on how well it navigates these challenges and leverages the opportunities presented by a more independent economic stance. How will Niger's move influence other CFA franc-using nations and broader economic trends in Africa? Niger's decision to leave the CFA franc will have ripple effects on other member nations and contribute to broader economic trends in Africa. If successful, Niger's move may inspire other CFA franc-using countries to reconsider their currency arrangements and pursue greater economic independence. This could trigger a shift in the region's economic landscape, with more nations seeking alternatives that align with their development goals. Additionally, it may contribute to the ongoing discourse on economic decolonization and sovereignty across the continent. However, the outcome will depend on how effectively Niger manages its transition and whether the benefits of its strategic move are realized in the long run. How will this decision affect France, Niger's former colonial master? France, enjoying economic benefits through the CFA franc, will likely face challenges and potential disadvantages if Niger decides to abandon the currency. The franc provides France with seigneurage revenue as the French treasury manages the currency. The reduction in seigneurage revenue from Niger could impact the profitability of issuing and managing the currency. Furthermore, trade relations between France and its former colonies, facilitated by the stability and familiarity of the currency, will be disrupted. The potential introduction of currency exchange rate risks and uncertainties could complicate financial transactions, necessitating trade agreements and contract adjustments. What are the disadvantages of the CFA franc? France, as Niger's former colonial master, stands to be significantly affected by Niger's decision to abandon the CFA franc. The currency has long been a tool through which France has maintained economic ties with its former colonies, and any shift away from it poses challenges for both economic and diplomatic relations. How does France benefit economically from the CFA franc, and how might it be affected? France benefits economically from the CFA franc through seigneurage revenue, a profit earned by the entity managing the currency. In the case of the CFA franc, the French treasury oversees the currency, allowing France to earn revenue from the difference between the production cost of money and its face value. If Niger decides to abandon the CFA franc, France stands to lose a portion of this revenue, potentially impacting the profitability of issuing and managing the currency. The reduction in seigneurage revenue from Niger could have financial implications for France. Seigneurage is the country's income source, contributing to its economic stability. If Niger, and potentially other CFA franc-using nations, were to transition away from the currency, it could lead to a decrease in overall seigneurage revenue for France. This reduction in income may necessitate adjustments in France's economic policies and budgeting, potentially affecting its fiscal health and economic planning. The stability and familiarity of the CFA franc have played a crucial role in facilitating trade relations between France and its former colonies, including Niger. If Niger decides to adopt a new currency or join a different monetary arrangement, trade transactions may face disruptions. The sudden introduction of new currencies or changes in exchange rates could complicate financial transactions, leading to uncertainties for businesses and traders involved in the Franco-Nigerian trade. France may need to renegotiate trade agreements and contracts to adapt to the new currency dynamics, potentially creating challenges in maintaining the smooth flow of commerce. How might the introduction of currency exchange rate risks impact France? The abandonment of the CFA Franc by Niger introduces currency exchange rate risks that could impact France. With a new currency system in place, the value of the Nigerian currency may fluctuate, leading to uncertainties in exchange rates. This introduces a level of risk for French businesses and investors engaged in transactions with Niger. The need to navigate these exchange rate risks could result in additional costs for businesses and may require adjustments in financial strategies to mitigate potential losses. The overall economic relationship between France and Niger may face challenges as both countries adapt to the new currency landscape. Niger's decision to abandon the CFA franc will have diplomatic implications for its relationship with France. The currency has been a symbol of the historical ties between France and its former colonies, and a shift away from it may be interpreted as a move towards greater economic independence and autonomy. France may view this decision as re-evaluating the long-standing economic partnership, potentially leading to diplomatic tensions. Navigating the diplomatic implications will require careful negotiations and discussions between the two nations to ensure the economic transition does not strain their broader diplomatic ties. In response to Niger's decision, France may need to reassess its economic engagement with not only Niger but potentially with other CFA franc-using nations, considering a similar move. France could explore alternative economic partnerships, seek to maintain strong diplomatic ties, or even consider adapting its monetary policies to mitigate the impact of losing seigniorage revenue. The response may involve a combination of economic, diplomatic, and strategic measures to safeguard French interests and influence in the region. Renegotiating trade agreements and contracts in the aftermath of Niger's decision poses challenges for France. The shift to a new currency system introduces uncertainties in exchange rates and potentially disrupts the existing framework of trade relations. France will need to engage in negotiations with Niger to adapt agreements to the new economic reality. This process may be time-consuming and complex, requiring both nations to find mutually beneficial terms to ensure the continued flow of goods and services. The challenges in renegotiating trade agreements could further strain diplomatic relations if not managed effectively. How could France work towards maintaining a positive economic relationship with Niger post-CFA franc? To maintain a positive economic relationship with Niger post-CFA franc, France may need to demonstrate flexibility and openness to adapt to the changing economic landscape. This could involve exploring new forms of economic cooperation, supporting Niger in its transition to a new currency, and finding ways to mitigate potential disruptions in trade. Diplomatic efforts will foster understanding and collaboration between the two nations. France may also consider offering economic incentives or assistance to ease the economic transition for Niger, promoting a collaborative approach that ensures the stability and prosperity of both nations in the evolving economic context. But what are Niger's motivations for considering leaving the CFA franc? Niger's contemplation of leaving the CFA franc is closely tied to its recent political and economic history. The nation has undergone significant changes, including a recent coup that has reshaped its political landscape. The aftermath of the coup has led to a reassessment of various aspects of Niger's governance and economic policies. The political shifts and evolving dynamics have influenced the nation's leaders to reconsider their economic strategies, including the currency arrangement with the CFA franc. Strained relations with France have played a significant role in shaping Niger's decision to potentially leave the CFA franc. The historical ties between former colonies and their colonial masters have often influenced economic relationships. Recent tensions and disagreements between Niger and France have created a backdrop for the reconsideration of economic partnerships, including the currency arrangement. Niger's leaders may perceive the CFA franc as a symbol of lingering colonial influence, prompting a desire to assert greater independence in economic matters. Why does Niger seek greater control over monetary policies, exchange rates, and economic decision-making? Niger's quest for greater control over monetary policies, exchange rates, and economic decision-making is driven by the need for autonomy. The constraints imposed by the CFA franc, with its fixed exchange rate pegged to the euro, limit Niger's ability to tailor its economic strategies to its specific needs. The desire for flexibility in responding to economic challenges, such as inflation and trade imbalances, has become a priority for the nation's leaders. Greater control over these aspects would provide Niger with the tools to shape its economic destiny and foster sustainable development. How does the consideration of establishing its currency reflect Niger's push for economic autonomy? The contemplation of establishing its currency is a clear manifestation of Niger's push for economic autonomy. Moving away from the CFA franc represents a strategic shift towards having complete control over its monetary policies and economic decisions. By having its currency, Niger would be able to set its exchange rates, implement tailored monetary policies, and navigate economic challenges independently. This move symbolizes the nation's determination to break free from perceived economic dependencies and forge a path of self-reliance. Leaving the CFA franc is seen by Niger as a strategic move towards self-determination. The currency has long been associated with historical ties to colonial powers, and the decision to abandon it represents a declaration of economic independence. Niger aims to chart its economic course, free from external influence, and shape policies that align with its national interests and development goals. The strategic nature of this move signifies a conscious effort to assert control over economic matters and redefine the nation's economic identity. Niger views the decision to leave the CFA franc as a crucial step away from neo-colonial ties. The historical association of the currency with colonial powers has created a narrative of economic dependence and external influence. By adopting a new currency system, Niger seeks to break free from this narrative and signal a departure from economic structures that are remnants of the colonial era. The move is a conscious effort to redefine the nation's economic relationships and assert its sovereignty in the face of historical legacies that have shaped its economic policies for decades. How will the departure from the CFA franc affect trade relations between France and Niger? The stability and familiarity of the CFA franc have played a crucial role in facilitating trade relations between France and Niger. The fixed exchange rate and the historical ties between former colonies and their colonial masters have provided stability and predictability in economic transactions. The CFA franc has been widely used in trade agreements, investments, and financial dealings between the two nations, creating a framework that has fostered economic cooperation. What challenges might arise in trade relations if Niger abandons the CFA franc? If Niger decides to abandon the CFA franc, challenges and uncertainties could emerge in trade relations between France and Niger. The sudden introduction of a new currency or a shift to a different monetary arrangement may introduce currency exchange rate risks. These risks could complicate financial transactions, creating uncertainties for businesses and traders involved in Franco-Nigerian trade. Adapting to new currency dynamics may require renegotiation of trade agreements and contracts, potentially leading to disruptions and adjustments in the established economic relationship. The introduction of currency exchange rate risks resulting from Niger's departure from the CFA franc could impact financial transactions between France and Niger. Fluctuations in the value of the new currency adopted by Niger may introduce uncertainties in exchange rates. This introduces an element of risk for businesses and investors engaged in transactions between the two nations. Financial institutions and businesses may need to adjust their strategies to navigate these risks effectively, potentially incurring additional costs and complexities in cross-border transactions. The shift away from the CFA franc may necessitate adjustments in trade agreements and contracts between France and Niger. Existing agreements structured around the CFA franc's stability may need revisited and modified to accommodate the new currency dynamics. Terms related to pricing, payment mechanisms, and other financial aspects may require renegotiation to align with the economic realities of the post-CFA franc era. The process of adjusting trade agreements and contracts can be complex and time-consuming, potentially leading to uncertainties in the short term. Disruptions in trade relations between France and Niger could have broader implications for economic cooperation between the two nations. The stability of the CFA franc has facilitated the smooth flow of goods, services, and investments. If trade relations face challenges due to the departure from the currency, it may impact the overall economic dynamics between France and Niger. Businesses may hesitate to engage in cross-border transactions, and investments may face uncertainties, potentially leading to a slowdown in economic cooperation. Mitigating the impact on trade relations will require diplomatic efforts between France and Niger. Both nations would need to engage in diplomatic negotiations to navigate the complexities introduced by the departure from the CFA franc. Diplomatic dialogue can help establish a framework for adapting trade agreements, addressing concerns, and fostering an understanding of the economic transitions each nation is undergoing. Effective communication and collaboration will be essential to maintaining positive diplomatic ties and ensuring the economic relationship remains resilient during the adjustment period. How might France and Niger collaborate to ease the economic transition post-CFA franc? Collaborative efforts between France and Niger are crucial in easing the economic transition post-CFA franc. Both nations can work together to develop strategies that minimize disruptions in trade and investment. This may involve joint initiatives to adapt trade agreements, provide financial support to businesses navigating the transition, and explore alternative avenues for economic cooperation. Collaborative diplomatic efforts can contribute to a smooth transition, fostering an environment where the economic relationship between France and Niger remains resilient and adaptive to the changing currency landscape. Do you think Niger made the right decision? Was staying dependent ever right? Why do you think Africa is now becoming independent? Let us know in the comment section if African nations will become economically strong. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.